Okay, so welcome this morning. My name is Jane Carney. I'm training officer with Mountaineering Ireland, and this is probably number 8 or so, or 9 at the skills sessions that I've been doing on Sundays. They've been really well attended. People have been very interested in them, which is great. Um, if you need to leave, go get something, someone comes in, I won't be offended. It's just life as it is at the moment. So be at ease, be comfortable. If you have any questions about what we're covering today, let me know that you don't get it, because someone else in the room will probably be having the same question as well. And that's what we're here for. It's an hour and a half long, so we can get through quite a lot of material. And I will be setting some tasks so that you can try out and see if it's working for you. Some of you will likely know some or all of the content of this, so it's an opportunity to just double check that you've got it, but also to maybe consider, if you were to teach someone, you might pick something up on how to teach the subject as well, how you could pass the information on, which is a really good way as well of checking that you understand it well enough. If you can teach it easily, then you probably know it well. If you struggle on bits, then that's maybe the areas where you need to check your knowledge again, or just double check your understanding. So it can suit any level, new to experienced people today. So if you do have questions, let me know. So the plan for today was to look at the maths for the mountains, or some aspects of it. A lot of folk have big issues and remember classrooms and horrible events back in school, and when you start talking figures for the mountains and numbers and any equations and so on, it's a few smiles. But the maths for the mountains is very practical. You shouldn't walk away saying, what's calculus for? Why are we doing this? What does this number mean? Now I've got the answer, because it will be a bearing, or it would be a grid reference that'll tell you where you are, or tell someone else where you are. It'll be what distance you're traveling, how long it's going to take you. So they're all really relevant and useful, which makes it a lot more inviting to work out how to do it. And I don't think I've had anyone yet in a long time that doesn't get it eventually. It might take you a lot more or less time, but it's doable, and it's real maths. So I'm going to go through them in a particular order, because you'll need one skill before you kind of get on to the next. So the first thing I'm going to have a look at is measuring distance. And again, from a teaching side, I think everyone in the room will know how to use a ruler. So you've got a good starting point. You've got something that everybody knows. So on your compass, you'll have a ruler just along the side here. Every compass will have a normal standard ruler on it somewhere. There's other rulers, other measuring scales, but we're just going to leave those for now and have a look at the ruler. So I would expect in the room there'll be people with 1 to 50,000 maps. Just stick a hand up if you do, or a thumbs up, those on off video. Most of you 1 to 50. Anyone on a 1 to 25,000? Yep. Okay, anyone on a 1 to 30,000? 40,000? 15,000? Nope. So mainly 1 to 25 and 1 to 50. That would be the vast majority of the maps. And then the third map that's very popular is the Harveys Maps. You've seen those. They're 1 to 30,000. Really good maps as well. But again, if you're teaching people, you'll need to have an idea of the different scales. Or if you're traveling up north, chances are you'll use a 1 to 25, because they've had them there for longer and they're bigger and you get more detail fitted in. So it's good to be able to switch from one to another and not be completely thrown out of your comfort zone. So if you're measuring a distance, every compass will have the ruler and every map will have a scale. So depending on what scale map you're using, so the 1 to 50, 1 millimeter would represent 50 meters on the land. If you have a 1 to 25,000 map, 1 millimeter will represent 25 meters on the land. And the same for 1 to 30, 1 to 40. It's the same pattern going through. It might be useful to make a note of that. Not sure whether everybody's stopped, whether it's my Wi-Fi or yours. Sorry about that, guys. My Wi-Fi is having a bit of a moment today, first time. So yeah, so it's useful to just jot down that reference point. So now you can take any map, look at the scale on it, and then you'll be able to translate it. So if you're on a 1 to 50,000 or a 1 to 25,000 now, if you want to just quickly measure how many millimeters are from one side of the box to the other. Okay, so because everybody's on either 1 to 50 or 1 to 25 today, you will have an answer of 20 or 40 millimeters.
20.
Let me know if you don't, please. You may just be on a different scale map. Well, you will be on a different scale map. So in the past, it's happened on occasion that the map makers have got the printing wrong and came out with 22 millimeters or 41 and a bit millimeters. For whatever reason, during the print process, it just got scaled wrong. So it can happen. And I think I've lost you again. No, is it going to be one of those sessions? My apologies. Okay, so if you have that, now you should all be able to measure any distance on your map. So pick within one box. How big is the box then? How many meters is the whole box representing?
A
Kilometer.
A kilometer.
A kilometer, yeah. So if you're on a 1 to 50, 20 millimeters, each millimeter is 50. And if you multiply that up, it's a kilometer. So if we just take on a 1 to 50, if 20 millimeters is a kilometer, 10 will be 500 meters. 1 millimeter will be 50 meters. Yeah. So if I measured a distance of 20 millimeters, the very quick way of translating that into distance on the ground is to just halve it. So 20 millimeters equals 10. And add a couple of zeros, a kilometer. Last you all? Yeah, some, yeah. Okay, so I want you to pick, I'll come back to it, I promise. Pick 2 places within that kilometer box. It could be the top of 2 hills or corner to a corner or bend to a bend, and measure the distance in millimeters and jot down the millimeters, how many millimeters it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so just jot down the number. And then depending on what scale map you are, if you've 1 to 50, each millimeter is 50 meters. So I want you then to work out how far that is in reality for the whole distance you've measured.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on a 1 to 25, 1 millimeter is 25 meters.
Sorry, what would 1 to 50, if it's 5 mils, it's what?
So each millimeter would be 50 meters. So if you 5 of them, you'd need to multiply that up by 5. So, okay, so the task I'm looking for you to do is to take any kilometer box on your map and find 2 points within it and measure the distance of that. So how many millimeters from one point to the other? You're not sure? Okay, I'll say it again, sorry. if I'll show you onto the map here, if you look onto the screen. For one person's just asking a question there, guys. So if you're happy, carry on doing what you're doing. Just find 2 points. So if I'm wanting to measure between 2 points, I just asked you to pick somewhere in it within a box, a kilometer box, and I'm going to pick the corner of this lake, the end, with where this path meets the contour line. So I'm just going to pick 2 points, and then I'm going to take my ruler and put it on from one point to the other, and then count how many millimeters. So it looks roughly from here, it looks like about 10 millimeters. I'm reading upside down, sorry, so it's kind of hard to see. So that's what I'm asking you to do there. So just pick any 2 points. I just want a short distance for you, that's all. Just find two points somewhere in a kilometer box. Yeah, great. Hi Shane, good morning. We started. You'll pick sure. Okay, so what we're doing at the minute, Shane, we're just measuring a distance. So I've set a task just within the kilometer box to find 2 points and measure from one to the other in millimeters. And we'll just have a look, see then that people can translate that into the distance on the ground they're going to be walking.
I think that's what I got last week, so then I had to leave, so that's okay then. That's great.
Oh, perfect. Okay, no worries. Okay, so when you've measured 10 millimeters and you're on a 1 to 50,000, 2 of them will be 100 meters, 1 will be 50 meters. And I'm going to lose the signal again. If you can still hear me, just translate your distance. So if you've, whatever in millimeters, translate. Sorry guys, I'm going to see if I can reduce the amount of online activity in the house, might help.
No more Netflix.
Nobody's online. My apologies. I'm not sure why it keeps cutting today. It's normally no problem. Okay, sorry. So hopefully you've all had plenty of time to work out how far your distance. So 1 or 2 of you, if you could give me the distance you've measured, the scale you're on, and the distance that is then on the ground. Let's pick randomly. David, you're not muted. What did you get?
So I measured 11 millimeters on a 1 to 50,000 map, which is 550 meters.
Perfect. So he's taken the 11 and halved it and made it into hundreds. That's what I was describing earlier, the 1 to 50. So if the rest of you want to either put your answer up on a page, just hold it to your screen and have a quick look. Right up. Yep, that's 1 to 50, John, I'm assuming. Yep, Roisin, that's also 1 to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, grand. Yeah. Yeah. So now it might be a bit more obvious what I meant by halve it and add a couple of zeros to make it hundreds. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of nodding and smiling going on. If you're on a 1 to 25,000, there'll be 4 millimeters in every 100 meters. So if you got 12, then you just divide that by 4. And you'd end up with a distance of 300. Okay. Anyone with 1 to 25? You happy? Yep. Okay. This chat room's very busy this morning. So Jennifer, I'm just, oh yeah, 1 to 50, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, all are good, and Christina good, yeah. Okay, so that's for measuring distance. So if you want to be accurate about measuring distance, actually how to do it, because the ruler and all the printing on the compass, it's not printed on the top surface, it's printed on the underside. So if you put your compass on whatever you've just measured and take your eye so that you can look at it from the side, slightly uphill, like I'm doing now. So I'm just looking down from slightly above, and I can see those marks on the compass right next to the map. So you'll need to kind of lift it so you can see it from the side. You getting that?
Yep.
One of the trickier things to describe online. But from here, we're used to reading measurements and rulers from directly above, so you don't get that parallax error. If you tip it slightly to the side and look at it from the side, you'll see that the markings are all shown on the very bottom of the compass. If you really need to be exactly precise with your measurements, then that is the way to do it, especially for short legs. You want to know, is it 2 and a bit or nearly 2? So is the feature just ahead of or just behind of? So that's, again, it's a useful way. If you're in bad weather, you need to be very accurate of reducing human error. Okay, so do you want to do a couple of distances to check that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Just make sure you're happy and come back to me if something's not working, just give me a shout. Okay. Eerily quiet, everyone. Does that mean everybody's got it? We're all happy out? No queries?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. do ask away if you don't. What it's for. So the purpose of measuring a distance has got many purposes, I suppose. You want to maybe plan a day, and you want to not take on too little or too much. You might have like 3 hours to go for a walk, so you want to pick something that will fill the time but not be too much to complete in the time. Equally, what time are you going to be at your lunch spot so that you can keep people at bay for eating? And what time do you need to be back down to get your lift or pick up or meet someone? And also, if the weather is very bad and you can't see your destination like you normally would in good visibility, that you can say, well, it's a kilometre away, so that should take me X amount of time. You can measure it then, and then you can do carry out a formula to work out how long it's going to take you to get there. So that's a few different reasons. Any other reason why you might want to measure distance? No.
You know, you don't go too far.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're kind of aiming to get to the next stream and you don't note how far away it is, invariably there'd be a few streams. Or you go into a forest corner, there'd be a few of them, and you're going to meet a track. There'd be quite a few of those as well. So it defines that one over any other, because they don't generally have two at the same distance from you. Same as beaches. You know, if you're going to head from a summit down a spur, there might be 3 spurs going off the top. So you need to define one over the other. That one's pointing north and this one's pointing south, or that one's 200 meters from the top and the other one is 400 meters from the top in another direction. So it'll define a particular one over another. The other thing, if you're on a feature as well, you can measure the size of it. So not all summits are the same size or saddles. For example, you're in a col, one might be 500 meters across, another might be just 100 meters across. So it can be useful to check. You're in the mist and you're walking along a ridge, and you're in an area that's tiny for a col, and you're looking for one that's massive. So it's a useful thing to be able to measure, so you know what size of a feature you're looking for. Okay, so the other way you can measure distance, I mentioned, is using the roamer. So on your compass, you'll all have this ruler. So that's your universal distance measurer. It's also long as well. You can measure quite a lot longer distances with that. With these, they are the size of the box, which we all said was a kilometre. So if you're on a 1 to 25, you can see that the kilometre box for that is biggest. And then I think that's a 1 to 50, yep, next in on this compass. And then I think this one is a 1 to 40. So that will fill one box on your compass, on your map. It's useful, you can use it to measure distance to the nearest 100 meters thereabouts, where the ruler will measure to the nearest 50 meters, or 25 if you're on a 1 to 25 scale map. So you can be more accurate with that one. This means you don't have to do any translating, you don't have to halve it, a quarter it, or whatever. But the biggest other benefit of this roamer is for when you're measuring grid references. So that's where I would generally use it, and I generally measure my distance with this one. So if you are trying to tell someone exactly where you're going to meet them, or which top you're going to climb to, or where you are if you're lost and you're trying to talk to emergency services, you may need to give someone a grid reference that can be nowhere else. So if you want to just quickly have a go at measuring distance using the roamer with the right scale, do. I'd be pretty confident you're all happy out at doing that. But just give that a quick go. Pick the same feature, make sure you get the same distance, and it's all working for you. Okay, so just again, if everyone's happy, they've found the roamer there on the map, on the compass, sorry, and just to check which scale you're working from your map, You can see there it's got them written next to them. If you're not sure, just put it against the box on your map, and it'll only fit the right one. It'll only fill a full box for the right scale that you're using. So, you know,
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, Jane, can I just ask a quick question there, please?
Yeah.
On the Romer scale for the 1 to 25,000 map,
Yeah.
it's graduated from 0 to 10. Okay, so if I pick 2 features on my map, I'm measuring it with the ruler as 23 millimeters.
Yeah.
So if I measure it with the Romer scale, it's coming in at approximately 6. So what's happening there? What?
Okay, so I'm just grabbing. So what was it? 22 millimeters.
Yeah, 23 millimeters when I measure it with the ruler.
Yeah.
But when you were just saying there to put the Romer scale down and measure the same between the same 2 points.
Yeah.
But just getting, obviously I can't get 22 because it's only going from 0 to 10.
Yes.
So what's
the scale mean?
Yes, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, good question. So with your 23 millimeters, the distance on the ground, you worked it out as, I'm assuming, 575 meters.
675 I got, but it's a Sunday morning.
20. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, so 500.
Yeah,
it's okay.
575, yes.
575, that's okay. And this is why we have Romas as well. So you don't have to do that, and it doesn't matter if it's a Sunday morning. So 500, and then the 3 extra, 25 each, making 75 meters on that scale map. So when you measure with your Roma, you're getting 6, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. On the Roma, it's broken down. Let's just show you what he's talking about if you've got on your own compass. So he's measured with the millimeters, and it comes in just under 600 meters. So if you're measuring with the Roma, is it exactly 6, or is it just a fraction under?
Just a fraction under.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about the accuracy. If you're measuring it in millimeters, you've got a mark for every 25 meters. Whereas on the Roma here, you've got a mark for every 50 meters. You see?
Okay, yes.
See what I mean? So it can only
Yes.
measure as accurate as the marks that are on the ruler you're using.
Yep,
Yeah?
perfect, thanks, yes.
No worries. So what he's done there, in essence, is rounded up to the nearest bit. But like I say, if you're having to be very accurate and your cliff edge that you want to stop at is just under 600 meters, it's really good to know that, because you'd walk over it. That's exactly, yeah, exactly. So if you need to be precise, then be precise. If it's a rough down to the car and you'll hit the car park, 25 meters is not going to make a big difference. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Good question. Any other questions around that, guys? Nope. Okay. So if we're coming then to use a grid reference, all we're doing is measuring a distance again, if you like, and finding a location. So for the map makers, they have created a series of letters and numbers to make it possible to pick one particular place that when you give that reference, it won't be mistaken for somewhere else. So if you're on a 1 to 50,000 map, one of this type, you'll see the map of Ireland with letters. Well, that one actually has got the sheet numbers because those are the maps they sell. If you open up the map, you'll find this section where they've got the map of Ireland and they've got a grid of letters. Okay, so wherever you are on the island of Ireland, you'll be one of those letters. So each letter represents 100 square kilometers. So when you are on your map, if each of you have a look and see along the bottom or up the side, and see if you've got a place where it's 0, 0 or 99, you know, up the low end and the high end of 100. If you're in Wicklow, you're spoilt. You have lots. A meeting of 4 corners of 400-meter blocks. Okay, and what I'm looking for you to find out is the letter. So in Wicklow, you can see the letters SNOT. Okay, so if I travel down on my map between the N and the O and the S and the T down to the bottom of the map, that'll be where the numbers are 0, 0. It's counted up to 99 and then it's starting again. 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2 and on. So if I was trying to find a feature in this section, I would have to start my grid reference with T, and in this section with O, O, and the same if I'm in N, or S or T. So that's the reference point. So if on your map, when you look across the bottom of it, there is no place where it goes 99, then 0, 0, or up the side, you will be able to find the letter that your map sits on back where I just showed you.
What map is this?
Sec. Have you all got the letter for your map?
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't, just give me a shout.
Jane,
Yes.
can I ask, this may seem like a really silly question, but say if you have a really large country that is larger than the alphabet in 100 meters squared, what do they do there?
They will use, like with the numbers on ours, they'll use double letters.
Oh, right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? They'll have A, B, and then they'll use more letters just to give them an extra digit. Yeah, yeah, character. Good question, not stupid. Yeah.
Sorry, Jane, this is Bridget. What size did you say each of the squares were on the national grid?
So
I'm looking at the Wicklow map.
So the actual grid square is a kilometer box. The letter square is 100 by 100 kilometers.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Sorry, it's the J, isn't it, on this one? This is the Leitrim. It's at the bottom of the map there.
yeah. Is that where the 0, 0 is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't quite see. Yes, that's right. Yes, so you can see the J there. Yeah. They don't all, because the maps have been kind of added a new series and then a third series and then a fourth series, they sometimes change the format of where they put the information around a bit. Because of feedback they've got or requests they've got or whatever. So it's not always in the same place, but in general it is. So if you can't find the letter on your map, just give me a shout and we'll track it down. It'll be in there somewhere. Everybody's got their letter? Yep. Yep. Great.
Yep.
So then the next set of information that you can use are the numbers that describe any one box on your map. So we've got the letter, so we've narrowed it down to 100 square kilometers. Now, if you want to walk into your map along the bottom, and again, decide on a feature you want to use for your grid reference, and then travel across the bottom of your map until you get to the box that your feature is in. So on my map, I'm going to use the summit of Capure. I'm in Wick. I've got a Wicklow map here. And if you're on the Mourne map, which I think one of you is definitely, if you maybe pick Cleve Martin is bottom left on the Mourne map as your point, near Ross Trevor. If anyone else wants me to give you a point for the map you're on, do if you want, or if you're happy, you can do wherever you like. Okay, so I'm going to do the grid reference for Capure. It's in the 100-kilometer box of O, and then I'm going to walk across my map, going up from 10 to 11 and so forth. It's in box 11, going across the way, and then I'm going to climb up the stairs, so up the side of the map. And that's in box 15. Okay, so that's now called a 4-figure grid reference and gives me an area of 1 square kilometer. So we're narrowing it down. Has everybody picked a spot?
Mm-hmm.
Jot down the letter, then go across, go along the corridor, find the number across, and then up the stairs, find the number up the side, so that you've got that box. And then you make that feature that you've picked, or that top, or whatever it might be. There may be a couple of them in the same kilometer area, and you want to define yours, the one you're standing on. So again, if I use Capure as an example, it's a peak. It's got a triangulation point on it, but it's also got a mast on it. So someone may mistakenly pick the wrong triangle as the top and go to that one and assume that's where they want you to meet them. So I want to give them a very definite point. So I'm going to measure exactly far in and then how far up that point is. And I'm going to use the Roma to do that. So I might put the 1 to 50 part of my compass, and I'm going to put the corner of it, this point here, on my feature, and that will count in. So I've got 11 across and a bit, so I'm going to put the corner on to find out how much extra from 11 it is to the point that I want to measure my grid reference to. So if you're able to see that. I'm measuring in there. It's just a fraction under 600 meters, so 6. It's just under it, so it's in box 5 rather than in box 6. Okay, so that would be the next number. I would write down 11, 6, and then I would see how far up into the box from the grid line it is. And I'm getting 4. Okay. Now, how many people have I lost in the process? There are people working it up. Thumbs up, grand. Yep, yep. So, yep, good stuff. Okay, so if you have any questions or you need a bit more time just to work that out for yourself, and then jot down your grid reference. Maybe write down what it is if it's somewhere definite, like the top of a peak or whatever. If you want me to check it, just ask.
Sorry, Jane, so can you give me whatever you got for Sleeve Martin, or will
Yeah.
I tell you what I got?
Yeah, fire away.
So I got J201176.
Okay, one sec. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Happy days. Anyone else in the morns there? I think there was one of the...
Could you tell me again what you got for Kipure?
Yep. 0116 154.
Oh,
Did I get it wrong?
No, I'm just looking. Sorry, I was reading the bottom line. I was like 115.
Okay, I'll have a look again. I could have, because I was trying to do it backwards on the screen.
Oh, no, I just didn't know which, yeah, latitude or,
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's 115. And it's very close to 6, but the reason why it has to be in the 5 is because it's the box that it's in. If you put it as 6 because it's nearly there, it's the next 100 meters along and it'd miss it entirely.
15, and then, so you
The box.
154.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want checking or happy out? Okay. Do you want to do a couple more?
Jane, could
Make
you just
sure it wasn't.
could you just repeat that again with the rounding up and rounding down of
Sure.
the boxes, please?
Yeah, no worries. So in this example, this box here, 09, is where my feature is. So I've picked my letter. I've got 0, 9, and then I want to count how much extra it is to go there. So if when I measure it, it's quite close to the line. You can see that. If I go on, yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying just up a tiny bit.
Up a bit, sorry. Yeah, there has to be a better way to do this, but I've yet to find it. So if the feature is just close to the line,
and then lift it up, Jane.
Yeah. I can't see it once I stick it in front of the screen. I can't see it then.
That's better. That's better. Yeah.
Okay, so if the feature is just close to the line, so this one I think it's 4. if you round it up to
Yeah.
4, then it's that next 100-meter block that you're talking about. So all the way up to 4 is 4. So you kind of have to go beneath it. So the first measurement in there is from 0 all the way up to 1. So if it's in that first box, it needs to be 0. You don't round them up. So if it's in box 5, it's behind 6. If you round it up, then it's telling them that it's in the next one along. That makes sense? Yeah. So it's a bit like where the letter changes from one letter to the next. So you don't round up because the box that you're in is the one, it's beneath you. It's behind. Yeah, good. That making sense for everybody else?
And if
Yeah.
it's exactly on the line, you just give the number. If it's exactly on the line, you give
It's
that
either
number.
in it, it's either below it, or it's above it. And that's what you have to decide.
Okay.
So if they were going to look for it, which box would you want them looking for you in?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's giving you, if that's a 6-figure grid reference. So the letter gives you 100 kilometers on its own. The 4-figure gives you the kilometer box. And the 6-figure will give you 100 meters square that you can be in. So if you are using your phones, you can get an app that will give you a grid reference up to 12 figures, which we can't measure because we don't have fine enough measuring devices to do that. So if you are in a rescue situation and you want to give someone where you are, give them a location, you can measure now a grid reference and you can give them 100-kilometer box, 100-meter box area that they can find you. So in addition to that, it's good to give them a description. I'm on top of Lugnaquilla, or I've just come off the south side of Lugnaquilla and this is my grid reference, so that they know it cross-references, that you've not taken the grid reference wrong and you've not put down the wrong mountain. They can cross-check the 2 items. So if you have a phone, a smartphone, you can download an app called OS Grid Converter, and that will give you a grid reference to, like I say, 8, 10, 12 figures if you want, which will put you down on a meter point if you really need to be that accurate. But in real terms, 6-figure is about as accurate as you can get with compass. So that then is really useful. The roamer is very useful because it can take both measurements in one go by putting the corner on. You can measure across and you can measure up at the same time. Be very mindful when I described you walking into the map and then climbing the stairs. If you get your numbers, if you go up first and across, your numbers will be back to front. And on some maps that would actually still work, but it will put you somewhere entirely different. They won't find you. So just in through the door and up the stairs. Okay, I still remember that from geography class a long time ago. But if you're teaching someone, that kind of thing really helps them. You don't use grid references every day. So when you do want to use them, it's very easy to make the error forget which way around it goes. So in through the door and up the stairs. Okay, we're flying along, guys. You're very quiet. So you're all getting it, which is great. Or you're not asking if you need to, but we're flying along. So we've measured distance, we've looked at scale. Some other aspects of scale, just before I forget. If you have more space to show information on a map, then it will do something to how steep the ground might look. So on the scale maps, these maps that I think everyone is using, either a 1 to 50 or a 1 to 25, a 1 kilometer box in a 1 to 50, you can fit 4 of them into a 1 to 25 kilometer box, size-wise. So you've got more space to show the same information. What that means is you've got 10-meter contour lines, you've got more space to show those contour lines. So it will have the effect of making the ground on a 1 to 25 look shallow, and on a 1 to 50 look steeper. So just to be aware of that, if you're very used to using a 1 to 25 and you come down south and start using a 1 to 50, you'll be expecting in your mind's eye the ground to be really precipitous, really steep. So it shallows out by look of it because you've got more space. But it also means then, if you're on a 1 to 25, because you've got more space, they put stuff in it. So you'll get more things shown, like the terrain features, you can see fences, drainage channels. They put a lot more information in there, which can be good, but sometimes it can start to conceal the features, the contour lines underneath it. So if we pick a peaky area on the Mourne map, you can see that they've started to put crag symbols along here, and it can conceal sometimes. It can be very useful, but it can also conceal the contour lines underneath. They put in more man-made features, so there we go. Oops. There we go. Walls, tracks, all kinds of stuff. And humans love man-made features because they feel like they're not lost anymore if they're on a man-made feature. It's in our nature. But it can stop you from looking at the contour lines underneath them when you maybe need to. So you might be on a track, but it might be pointing south and the one you want's pointing east. So just be conscious that it can distract you a little bit as well. Okay, so if we move maybe on to have a look at timing first. So there are a couple of ways of plotting your progress. So you've measured your distance, you know how far you need to travel, but how are you going to measure that on the ground? How are you going to know when you're there? So if we use two things we can use. Pacing, you can count your steps and actually pace out how far you've traveled. That's my preference. If it's bad weather navigation on the ground, that's what I would use first. Or you can use timing. So how long will it take me to walk 500 meters? How steep is it? How much will that slow me down? How tired am I? How much will that change my speed? All of those kind of things. So if we look at timing first, and I would use timing more so to work out how long the entire day is going to take. Am I going to be down on time? Is my group moving fast enough to get down on time, or do I need to cut it short? Or are they flying and do I need to add? I'm going to have spare time to do more. So with timing, you've got your kilometer box, you've got your walk, you know how many kilometers you're going to try and cover in the day. All you need then really is the speed you're going to travel at. So the general rule is to use a 5 kilometer speed. It was something that Naismith, a Scottish fellow, went out, timed groups with day packs over and over again and got averages. And he reckoned 5 kilometers an hour was a good group pace. And so that was his kind of baseline. Now, some groups are smaller and can move quicker, some move slower than that. So by the end of this bit of the session, we will have maybe timings for 3, 4, 5, 6 kilometers an hour. But we'll focus on 5, and then you can use that information to work for other speeds. So if you're doing 5 kilometers in 1 hour, each kilometer will take you 12 minutes. It's 5 12s or 60. Okay. So if you want to, you could start writing a table up. It's up to you. But so 5 kilometers in 1 hour, 1 kilometer is going to be 12 minutes. And then again, like your Roma, if you want, you can break that down into smaller legs. So half a kilometer for the more relaxed amongst you. If 1 kilometer is 12, half a kilometer will be 6. 3/4 will be 9. 1/4 will be 3 minutes. Okay, so that's the rough and ready, simple maths. Are we going to lose people again? Some people are, oh no, there's not, they're just concentrating. I thought you'd frozen again on me. So if you don't need to be particularly precise, then that should be enough for most of your timing. So, you know, if you've measured 250 meters, 500 meters, 750 meters, you can work it out. If you've measured 1 kilometer and 250 meters, you can add the bits together, 12 plus 3. Okay, and that'll give you an idea of how long it's going to take you to cover that leg. And then the key thing with timing, which is why I don't often use it, is to remember to set a timer and then to remember to check your timer. So, because we all get very distracted these days and we forget. So you can set an alarm if you want that will beep when you've reached your time. Or you can use a stopwatch, or you can use your phone or your watch or whatever. But you know, make sure you've got something there that will alert you to when you're there. And that's really it in the distance. So if your leg is 1 kilometer, it should take you 12 minutes. If the leg is flat, if you're going to be doing a lot of climbing in it, then that's going to slow you down, obviously. So you'll need to add a little bit of extra time, and a very quick way of doing that, any contour line that you climb, so 10 meters, add a minute. Okay, so if you're going from 200 meters to 300 meters, that's going to be 10 contours. You'd add 10 minutes onto your time. And a bit like grid references, you measure your distance, so that's in through your door, and then you count up the stairs how many contours. When you're teaching this, people sometimes confuse when you say, oh, we're traveling 1 kilometer and we're going to climb 300 meters. They sometimes see the 300 meters as distance, but it's height. So you're in through your door and up your stairs. So those are your two measurements, your distance across and your height climbed. So 12 minutes for your kilometer, 300 meters in gain, so that's 30 contours, 30 minutes. That makes sense? Okay, so pick 2 points on your map, not too far apart, maybe a couple of boxes apart or something like that. Measure your distance from A to B and jot that down.
Got it down.
Your contour lines are going down. Do you subtract time, or do you still add 1 minute per contour?
No, so good question. So any contour line that you're climbing, you add a minute, and you do nothing at the moment with any that you go down. Just leave them as though they're flat. Okay. What I'm describing there, just from that question, if I'm going from here, if this is looking at it from the side, a profile view, if I'm going from here to here, I would count the contour lines up to there, ignore those, and then count the contour lines up to there. The same in reverse, ignore all of those, count those and ignore those. So it's only the ones that are slowing me down because I'm climbing. Everyone okay with the task? You know what they're doing? So for counting contour lines, you may have not done contours before, you may not have looked at them before, but where they're shown on a map like this, every fifth contour line will be dark, will be like it's in bold. They're called an index contour. So if you're counting a slope that has a few hundred contour lines or 50 contour lines in it, you can go from the dark one and count 5, 10, 15 up the slope. And if there are a few then on either side, you can just add the odd ones at the end of it, rather than having to count 1, 2, 3, 4, where you've got lots of them to try and fit in. Okay, so once you've clocked the distance, made a note of it, and the number of contours climbed, and made a note of that, then you can put the time next to those two. So if you've measured a distance of 500 meters, that would give you 6 minutes, and counted 10 contour lines, that would give you 10 minutes. And then you can add those two, the 6 and the 10 together, to get 16 minutes for that leg. Okay. Good. Starting to finish. Yeah. So if you want to jot that down so I can see it and have me check it, you can put the figures up on the screen, or we can just take 1 or 2 examples to work through for the rest of the group to see how we are getting to our answers. Deathly silent. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm just looking at Jennifer's there, thanks. So 1.5 kilometers and 9 contours. So 11. So we've got 12, 18 minutes for the distance and 9 minutes for the contours. So Jennifer, I think you may, it looks like you've written 11 minutes for the distance. I can't quite read it properly, but is it 18?
Yeah, sorry, my age just looks a bit like.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. So 12 for the. Yeah, it's an 8. I believe it. I just cannot see it too clearly. So yeah, so 1.5 kilometers would be 12 plus 6, which is 18, and then 9 contours with 9 minutes, and would make 27 minutes for the entire leg. Was there someone else? I saw a paper up at one of the screens. Yep, just hold that right in there, John. So great. So distance again, 1 kilometer, 150 meters. Nice to keep things simple. So 12 minutes for the kilometer, and then 1.5 minutes you've put in there for 150 meters. 90 meters up, which is 9 contours and 9 minutes. If you just move it a little bit across, and I can see your total. The other way, just go, yeah, the opposite direction. Yeah, so 22.5 minutes. So we've got 13.5 plus 9 to give 22.5. Okay. Anyone else want me to check workings there? Okay, Orla. 2.85, so 12 and 12 is 24, and then 9, 33, and a bit extra, and 27 contours, so 34, 44, 54, 61 minutes. Okay, roughly. So if you want to be more precise, oh yeah, go on, Una. 27 millimeters. Is this a 1 to 50? Yep. So yeah, 14. So 13, 1 kilometer is 12, 350 meters, 15, 16 and a bit minutes, plus 8 for your contours. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So hopefully that's working out for everybody. And you can see there the need to measure distance and then apply that to know what the contour lines are and find them and count them, only counting the ascent, the climb. Sometimes when you're descending, you'll know yourself when you're walking, where you have to take your hands out of your pockets, you have to look where you're going, you might have to do a bit of zigzagging. You'll know that the descent is actually slowing you down as well. So you are allowed to add extra time in descent when you can feel that it's making a difference. And that could be a minute per contour, or you could decide it's not that bad, I'll add half a minute per contour, or you can just not add anything and just say it's going to take me longer. So when you've done your, you've said it's going to take you 20 minutes, you know you're not going to be there at 20 minutes, but it'll get you to a point where you can say, right, well, it's in front of me soon. Okay, so you can practice and play around with. Some people use 30 seconds per contour because they're quite nimble and they're fast on their feet, and so it depends on the person, but from a group perspective, 5 kilometers an hour and a minute per contour works pretty well. So that's the kind of the bog standard, kind of typical group pace. So if you want to look at, say, 4 kilometers an hour, that then will equate to 15 minutes per kilometer. And if you want to look at 3 kilometers an hour, that will equate to 20 minutes per kilometer.
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yep. Yep. So we've used 5 kilometers an hour, so that's 12 minutes per contour, per kilometer. If you're looking at 4 kilometers an hour, there are 4 in an hour, so each kilometer will take you 15 minutes. And if you're doing 3 kilometers in an hour, then each kilometer will take you 20 minutes. Okay, so I might give you a minute or two with those 3 speeds. In fact, we'll give you 6 kilometers an hour as well. And that'll take you 10 minutes speedily. So if you then want to take those and work out for half a kilometer, a quarter, and 3 quarters, that's the rough and ready. We'll get onto the OCD one every 100 meters in a few minutes. Okay, so if you work out for your half, your quarter, your 3 quarter for each of those speeds, you'll end up with a wee table.
And still sticking to the 1 minute per 100 or per 10 meters.
Yeah, they keep that. Yeah. Okay. People are starting to finish, I think. So this is where people can often start glazing over. It just becomes a bit of a maths exercise of numbers. But really, just the principle of speed is distance over time. So we move faster, it'll be quicker. We move slower, it'll be slower. And you don't always walk at the same pace, depending on how much sleep you've had, how tired you are, how fit you are, start of the season. So you'll all probably be a bit slower if you've not been doing much during the lockdown. You might be good on the flat if you're not living near the mountains, but you might be a bit slower on the uphills or the descents even. So that's why it's good to be able to change your timing, so you don't have to race to keep up with that 5K an hour if you're really tired. So you can also buy cheat cards or whatever you want to call them, ready reckoners, or you can create one. So this is a timing card. It's on a piece of laminate, and you can then just put in the speeds that you might walk at and then populate it. So they've decimalized time there. If you look at the 5K an hour, 12 minutes, and then 1.8, 9.6, 8.4, and so on. Time isn't decimal, as we all know. It should be for 100 meters, not 1.2, but a minute and 12 seconds, 2 minutes 24, and so on. But in reality, you're only talking a few seconds. But yes, you can create a timing card for the different speeds. So you can flick from one to another quite easily without getting your maths messed up on the hill because you're tired or whatever. So in kind of general terms, you've got your half and your quarter and your 3/4 and your kilometer. That should serve you for most of the time. But if we look in detail then at the 5 kilometers and break it down into 100-meter legs, so that when you're doing that really precise navigation, because it's bad weather and you have to hit exactly where you need to hit, every 100 meters will take you a minute and 12 seconds. So you can create a timing card with 100, 200, 300, and so on, if you really, if you feel the need to be that accurate. So that's something, like there is also a presentation on our website that has all this maths done in underneath the skills. I'll send an email afterwards anyway, but the link will be there so that you can just print that off and laminate it and stick it onto your compass string or something. So that'll allow you measure. So at the beginning of your day, if you're out, say, walking with your club or the group of people that you walk with, and you want to see how fast they're traveling, pick 2 points, maybe over a kilometer, and time them. Time yourself and see what speed you travel at, with a bit of climbing in it. So and when they've warmed up as well, it'll give you a good idea of how fast you're moving, and that way you can predict where you're going to be then over the day if people stay moving at that speed. The other thing to factor in, this is not including rests or breaks. So in your day, you might want to stop for 10 minutes for a bite at 11 or lunchtime or whatever. Some people have a full feast and stop for a proper hour-long lunch. And I see the nodding there, Una, sorry. Yep, so when I saw you laugh and I said 10 minutes. So some people don't stop at all. They just eat on the hoof and put a few snacks in their pockets because they have to get back somewhere. So whatever way your style works, but do factor in some time for rests and breaks. It's not just the travel time, like anything else. So that way, if you've put down, it's going to take me 8 minutes to do this leg, and you travel 8 minutes and you still can't see your feature, you expect it to be somewhere in the vicinity. So you might go on for a bit or back for a bit, but you're not going to walk for 20 minutes and not notice that you've gone too far. So it's a good guide to tell you when to stop and when to start looking for things. The same way you realize at lunchtime that you're not going to finish the full walk because people are just moving too slowly. You don't find that out at 4 o'clock when you're an hour behind. You realize that at lunchtime you need to change something with the plan so that you can still get down in time. So it gives you a heads up. Okay, any questions around timing? We've only done one example, so definitely for homework, do a few, check them out, share them, check them with someone else. The last thing I said I'd mention, and again, I'm conscious of the time now, if people need to leave, just feel free to. The last thing with pacing is to count your strides when you're traveling. So if you pick 2 features on your map that are 100 meters apart or 200 meters apart and walk between them and count your steps, that'll tell you how many steps you take, and you can break that down then. So rather than counting every step, I would maybe pick my left leg or my right leg and just count every double pace. Keeps the numbers smaller. So if I say measure from a forest corner to the next forest corner and it's 100 meters away, I will count my steps, and when I get there, I'll make a note that it's maybe somewhere between 60 and 80 paces, double paces, and I make a note of that, and then I might turn around and walk back the way and make a note of that, and then I might turn around and go back up again and do that 2 or 3 times and then average it out. And if that ground is flat, that's my pace for that kind of terrain, and it's pretty accurate. It really is. If you do it then on a gentle uphill, such as you often walk when you're on the hills, and you do your pace up and a gentle downhill back, and do that twice in each direction, you'll get your average gentle down and your average gentle uphill. And you can make a note of that, and that might be a little bit more for your uphill. It might go from 60 or 70 to 80 or 75 or something. So it'll change because your stride length is shorter when you're going uphill. And also, it's no longer flat line that you're measuring the diagonal between 2 points. So it actually is longer a bit as well. So if you can decide when to stop as to how many different terrains you do your pacing on. You can do it on snow, very steep ascent, very steep descent, but definitely have a flat average, an uphill shallow and an uphill steep, and a downhill shallow and a downhill steep. So you might have 5 numbers for that pacing. And again, you can, rather than remember them all, you can make a table and jot down what you've got. Okay, and you can laminate that, put your timing and your pacing back to back and laminate it, stick it onto the string of your compass, so you've got it when you need it. And that way you're more likely to use it as well. Are there any, pacing is normally a practical subject to teach. So if you have a big garden or a stretch of road outside your house, which you all will, have to get in there somehow, you could take out your map and measure from your house down to the junction or somewhere that's 100 meters away from you, and get outside and pace that back and forward. It's not quite the same as the hill, but it'll give you your on the road pacing, and I'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. So you should end up with somewhere around 55, 60-ish, up to about 80, depending on whether you take a longer or short stride. If you're getting 100 and something, you're probably counting every step. Just count 1 for the double pace. It keeps the numbers lower. So when you're using that, if you've measured a distance of say 400 or 500 meters, and your 100 meter pace is 60, count your 100 and then tick it off with a thumb, or pick up a stone or slide a bead and then count the next 100 and tick that one off, and the next 100 and tick that one off. Don't add the 4 together and say I'm doing 240 paces, because if you lose count or get distracted, you kind of probably don't have a clue where you are in that leg. Whereas at least if you tick off the hundreds, you'll have a good idea. I've done 2 and a bit, and when you get to 3, you'll start looking when you're coming into the end. So tick them off as you go. Don't do maths where it's not necessary. So I'm conscious that was a very whistle-stop 5-minute session on pacing, but get out and practice it and have a look. There's also a presentation on that, and apologies to those that have been to these sessions before. I'm going to send an email on to you anyway with all the links to videos and to the presentations as well, and other bits and pieces. So are there any questions around pacing? Nope. Very fatigued looking this morning, guys, I have to say. It's been a long week. Anyway, well, at least you can get out there now, I hope, and do a bit and get up to the mountains again and try them out. Just to let you know, I'll put in some details as well. There's courses that you can do if you want to do something formal. There are grants if you're in a club or an individual member that you can apply for to get some training into your club or to support you. And the mountain skills course, that's really what I'm teaching from, the syllabus from that, and the mountain leader. So there's a number of formal schemes if you're interested in consolidating or developing, but I'll send out information on those as well. But please share the information with other people that you're out walking with. Train them a bit. It'll help you with your own skills. Okay, guys, listen, thanks very much for your Sunday mornings. It's 1:45, so I'm going to let you go, make lunch, go for a walk. Nice seeing you all again.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane.
Bye, Jane. Thank you.